That's a 3-0 start for the Ducks. Signs of serious life with more work to do.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it's that time once again for a live reaction episode of Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view post Oregon's third win of the year on the hardwood, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all so much for helping make that possible. I saw a lot of good things in this game. I also have a very fun question, but I've been waiting to answer in the mailbag for quite a while that I'll use to wrap today's show. But Oregon beats South Dakota State 83-69. Didn't look for a while, a long time as a matter of fact, that Oregon was going to find a way to win this game by double digits because it was close most of the time. And there's been a trend in each of the 3 games Oregon has played this year around about the 10 to 12 minute mark of the second half. Oregon goes on a run of 8 to 12 points. And they build a lead, and you think, oh, okay, they've settled in. They're playing an inferior opponent. They've got another one up next on Monday against Oregon State, who's the best team that the Ducks have played so far this year, by far. That game will be on FS1, 7 o'clock local tip. And they go on that run, and you think, oh, okay, this is where Oregon lean. This is where they blow it open, as we've seen Dane Altman teams do a lot over the years, where they just lean on teams with their defense. They start to get shooting a little bit. And then all of a sudden, once Oregon builds that lead, in every game this year, they give up a run. And the concerning thing about that is what's done Oregon in the last several seasons a couple of times, and I think we saw this last year, they haven't had that kind of alpha killer mentality. I haven't seen that from this team yet. Doesn't mean it can't arrive, but I just haven't seen that. And it feels like when they get a lead, they get a little complacent. They lose the intensity. They get a little sloppy. They're not clicking at the offensive end. So that's something that I don't like. But what I do like is that Oregon's offense played its best game of the year. And that wasn't just reflected in the point total, because as I always say, stats are a starting point. They are not an end point. And Oregon in the first 2 games of the season made 9 combined threes. They made 7 last time out in the win over, I just completely blanked on Oregon's game against Rice last time out. And that game was closer than it needed to be. Hawaii was way too close for comfort. They made just 2 threes. Oregon was 15 of 40 from beyond the arc. South Dakota State, I think that shows that they came in with a game plan. Credit to their staff, by the way. They look good, well coached, could be a player in the Summit League. But they came in having seen what Oregon had done from beyond the arc and said, let's pack it in. Let's make them shoot a bunch of threes. Let's force them to shoot from beyond the arc. And then Oregon went out and hit the shots. And 9 of those 15 threes were split between Oregon's starting backcourt, TK Simpkins and Jackson Shelstad. Now, the Ducks were without 2 players in this game who will have a role going forward. Devon Pryor, we have seen. He was out with a leg injury in this game. You definitely want to get him back. He hasn't gotten his offensive game going, but he rebounds and he plays defense. He's very athletic. But another thing that we learned earlier this week is the reason that Jamari Phillips hasn't played is he's serving a 3-game suspension that ends with this game, so he should be back for Monday against Oregon State. It was an incident regarding the selling of team-issued gear. So, okay. I guess it's against the NCAA, whatever. Getting Jamari Phillips back could definitely be a help to the bench unit, which right now is Wei Lin and Drew Carter coming off the bench at the guard spot. And those guys are just not getting it done. Drew Carter's a walk-on, hit a 3 in this game. Awesome. That's about all you can really ask from a walk-on guard that's seeing real minutes while the game is still within question. But Wei Lin's struggles continue. He didn't really play. I don't know if he played at all in the second half. He was 1 of 5 in this game, 0 of 4 from beyond the arc. He's off to a rough start. Either Jamari Phillips has to get back and start scoring, or Wayland's got to figure it out. One of those things needs to take place. But overall, positive vibes for the offense in this game. So 15 of 40 from beyond the arc. Is that sustainable? I mean, it's not a ridiculous percentage. It's a lot of three-point attempts. But South Dakota State was packing it in. You got to hit the shots. That's 37.5%. I'll take that. And that's not some crazy, unrepeatable, 16 of 32, 50% from beyond the arc or anything like that. But 9 of them came between Simpkins and Shelstad. Shelstad was 4 of 13, and Simpkins was 5 for 10 from beyond the arc. I keep liking Takai Simpkins, TK Simpkins, wherever he goes by. I think it's both. I keep liking Simpkins more and more as I watch him play. The athleticism is there. I think that he can play at the level that he's at now. Of course, coming over from Elon, that's always a fair question, I think, to ask is what's it going to be like when you go against a higher level opponent? Now, Oregon's played 3 schools that are closer to what he played at Elon than the Big Ten, but I think Simpkins looks part. He's shooting the ball well. That's a really good sign. But Jackson Shelstad in the second half started to get things going. He started 2 of 10 from beyond the arc, made 2 of his last 3 shots. They still don't call him for a push-off, and you know what? If they're not going to call it, I guess keep doing it because that's a great way for him to create space because he's a small guy. But Shelstad had a game-high 22 points in this one, 8 of 19 shooting. He's not all the way there, but here's something else, and my everydayers who are basketball diehards out there will connect these dots in your head when I say it, but Oregon's offense puts up 83 points in this game, and Jackson Shelstad has a season-high 8 assists. This is not a coincidence. It never has been. It never will be. There is the logical fallacy, post hoc, ergo propter hoc, after, therefore, because one thing follows another, therefore it was caused by the first. It's not always the case. But in this one, I can point to a number of examples, and this is just the latest one, when Jackson Shelstad is maximizing his playmaking potential. He's so quick, and he's got a great ability to make good passes. Oregon's offense is at its best. Nate Biddle solid in this game again, was 1 of 2 from 3, 14 points, 10 boards, 2 blocks. He's just one of the steadiest performers that Oregon has had in the last several years. Just game in, game out. He doesn't have a lot of duds. But Des Lindsey had a nice game starting for Devon Pryor, 8 points, 2 of 3 from beyond the arc. Kwame Evans only had 5 points, but hit a 3 in this game. Biddle had 1, and then 9 between Simpkins and Shelstad. 1 for Alexander. They were saying it on the broadcast. I'm sorry, I don't have his pronunciation down. He arrived late last year. Kubitsky, I don't think that's right. And then Drew Carter hit 1 as well. But he's an international player, comes over from Ukraine. I got to be honest, I think I've mentioned him maybe twice on the pod in the last 2 years combined, if that. And he was kind of a spark for a moment. He hit a 3. He's got a good-looking shot, was playing hard. He's long. He saw 12 minutes. He was the second most played player off the bench for Dana Altman this game. So, the starting 5, we know what that is. The mix between KJ Evans and Sean Stewart is one that I think we'll just continue to see. They're very interchangeable, those 2 guys. They're a little different. Evans gives you more shooting. Stewart gives you a little bit more athleticism. Both give you plus defense. So I think those 2 will go back and forth a lot. I feel good about the rest of the starting 5, but the bench has to find a spark. And I hope that can be Jamari Phillips. That's what I was hoping for Phillips before the year. So once he gets back into the fold on Monday, hopefully that's someone that can really provide offense off the bench. Because right now, Oregon is missing Keyshawn Bartholomew. That's what it looks like right now. So again, with the positives that the offense starting to get there. Shelstad is not himself yet. Shelstad is not. If they are going to beat Auburn on November 24th, and I will be there to see it in person in Las Vegas, if that's going to happen, Shelstad has to be Shelstad. He's not there yet. But the second half of this game, he looked more like himself. But he's just trying to get into the rhythm. He's still got the brace on his shooting hand from the injury he suffered in the fall. So I think that there's just a time. There's a certain amount of time, and it's different for everybody, but you have to undergo that to get yourself back into rhythm. And I think that he's starting to get there. I think the offense started to get there in this game, but they have to be more consistent in the first half because South Dakota State, The Jackrabbits are, again, a team that you can just out-athlete, okay? You cannot do that in the Big Ten. You cannot do that with your non-conference opponents of Auburn and San Diego State in Las Vegas, or Gonzaga later on December 21st, okay? You can't do it to any of those teams. So 3-0 is good. Offensive progress is good. Not the defensive effort I imagine Dana Altman wanted to see. But keep dropping your comments below. I'm going to I'm going to answer a couple of your guys' questions a little bit later because I see you dropping them in there. And you guys ask for more basketball content. Ask and you shall receive. I am, of course, but your humble servant. So we'll get to a couple questions. And TK Simpkins. Ooh, I'm just becoming more and more of a fan every single game. First, this episode brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. This episode also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand like Shaden Sharp for the Blazers tonight, TK Simpkins and Jackson Shelstad for the Ducks, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers, by the way, Oregon basketball, 0-3 against the spread this year, for whatever that's worth. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Got our live second segment sip, as always. So, great to have you guys here on the post-game live. Here's one. Zachy B. Games sends this one in. SSA, without Biddle, this team would be 1-3. Well, Zach, they have only played 3 games, so that would be quite the feat if they were able to be 1-3 somehow. But, yeah, Oregon's 3-0 right now against 3 teams that they should have beaten. It was more stressful in every game than it should have been. It has, however, note this, been less stressful in each subsequent game. Hawaii literally came down to their last offensive possession. Rice was uncomfortable, but they won by 4. South Dakota State, in the last couple minutes, wasn't able to keep up. So it's progress. It's getting better. And it's why it's great that the schedule is set up the way that it is, so that they can work these things out and work in their new faces and get Jackson Shelstad healthy, because we know there's always an injury or two Oregon's got to deal with every year. Oregon State on Monday, and then it is full steam ahead. Absolute full steam ahead. But I assume you mean 1-2. Oh, yeah, next comment. I meant 1-2, but you know what I mean, LOL. I don't think they'd be 1-2 without Biddle. They definitely would have lost one of the games. That I think they probably would have lost the Rice game. If I'm being honest, pretty sure Biddle was monstrous in that one. Yeah, he had 25, and Oregon's offense was not, even though Shelstad returned in that game, you know, he was 2 of 12 from the floor, 2 of 7 from 3, and Biddle had 25, 8, and 6 blocks. So, yeah, I think they probably would have found a way to lose to Rice, who they were trailing at the half by 5 against. I think they would have still been able to beat Hawaii. I don't think they would have lost both, but yeah, I think Biddle is someone that you got to be happy that they have. Of course, it's why when he came back, I said, this is huge, because I don't know where Oregon would go in the front court if Biddle decided to go to the NBA. But yeah, I think that with Oregon's front court, I like the way that those guys are playing. I don't love the way we get the ball into the post and pass out of the post. That's got to improve. That's got to improve, because it just is way too difficult to get maybe your best offensive player. You could argue with Shelstad, that's fine, best or second best. In Nate Biddle, it's too hard to get him the ball. The entry passes just look way, way too difficult, and I don't know why, but they've got to find a way to get him more easy looks. But then when he gets the ball in his double team, man, the passes have to be sharper. There were a couple times where it was good, and then there were times where there was one in particular, Stewart was wide open underneath for a layup, and Biddle, against South Dakota State, not exactly Wisconsin out there or Purdue, Biddle has his pass deflected, and what should be an easy layup results in a turnover. Those are the sorts of things Oregon has to get better at. There was one... Tara sends this one in. Simpkins is so good. Yeah, I'm becoming a TK Simpkins fan. And if you haven't watched this Oregon team yet, you probably will too. Because this is a guy who I think can score at every level. I like the way he works at the defensive end of the floor. His athleticism is good. He's been shooting the ball really well. And alongside Jackson Shelstad or getting kickouts from Nate Biddle, you've got to be able to knock it down from deep. And this was something that held Oregon's offense up last year was, TJ Bamba was so great. His defense, athleticism, he scored inside really well. And Simpkins isn't at that level, scoring on the interior, but because he's not as big and he's not as experienced at the high level of college basketball. But TJ Bamba's lack of three-point shooting was a problem. It got to the point where teams would actually game plan to leave Bamba open for three. Well, you can't do that with Simpkins. He right now is shooting. That can't be. He was 5 of 10 from beyond the arc in this game, so I don't think his stats have fully updated. But no, he can knock it down from distance, and he's a guy who got better. Over the last 2 years at Elon, he was a 29% three-point shooter 2 years ago. Last year, he was 37%. So if he shoots in the mid to high 30s from beyond the arc this year, and I think he's fully capable of that, man, that's a big boost to the offense. And that's something he brings to the table that Oregon didn't have from their two-guard position a year ago. Yes, I know, Zachy B. Games, you meant 1 and 2. I see it. I see it. But... let's see. I'll take one more. Are you going to be chair of the TK Simpkins fan club too? Too early. Too early to tell. I got to see Amari Washington play an entire season last year, albeit in a reserve role, when I made the determination and then the season came to a close. So at least give me to the holidays before I declare who I will be chairing the fan club for on this Oregon team. But yeah, I like what Simpkins brings to the table. I do. I think that at both ends he's got plenty going for him, and if he's not going to be 5 of 10 from 3 in every game. But also, I think a game like this will cause Wayne Tinkle at Oregon State, their head coach, to look at how he wants to defend this Oregon team and say, well, don't know if we can pack it in and force them to shoot threes because they put up 40 and made 15 of them. Like, that's an acceptable clip. If you're going to shoot that many. Like, if you're going to put up 40 threes in a game, I don't think Oregon will do that a lot. But if another team does that and you're able to get those shots off, and I didn't think Oregon was taking bad looks in this game by any stretch of the imagination, if that winds up happening in another game and Oregon shoots 40 threes, you got to make like 12 is a minimum, but probably you got to be in the teens, 13 to 15 range. Like, that's more than enough offensively. All right, here's another. Here's the last comment I'll take, and then I'll do my fun question to end today's show. Zach says, when Shelstad facilitates, this team gets even more dangerous. Yes, I mentioned that earlier. However, here's where the team will get the most dangerous is when he keeps facilitating and he gets his jump shot back. Remember, great Jackson Shelstad games are ridiculously efficient for a guard. A great Shelstad game, he's 8 of 12 from the floor and 3 of 5 from beyond the arc for 25 points. If he then adds 6 to 7 assists and a couple his defensive activity was really good in this game. He had 3 steals. I've always thought his defensive activity goes underrated. And, I mean, not when I talk about him, but just kind of generally speaking, like on ball, he's fine. But he has really, really quick, good hands to take the ball away from guys. And we saw that in this game in a couple of key spots. They didn't force a ton of turnovers from the Jackrabbits. I imagine Dana Altman we'll look at that and other things as to what he wants his team to do better at the defensive end going forward. But yeah, when Shelstad facilitates, this team is at its best. And then once he gets his shot back, he started slow last year and he didn't have an injury. Once he gets his rhythm, then Oregon could have something. But there is one more. I'm not describing Oregon State as a tune-up. I'm just saying that there's one more opportunity against a team that you can get away. You can get away with making some of these mistakes or not being totally sharp. You got one more game like that before the gauntlet really begins. And there are some other matchups, to be sure, that Oregon, later on against Portland or UC Davis or Omaha, like those are games later in December that you can play this way and win. But you want to build an NCAA tournament resume, it starts it's 2 games away. 2 games away. It is Monday against South Dakota State. It is Monday against Oregon State. And then it is the following Monday against Auburn. And then it is on like Donkey Kong. So, here's the question that I had been saving for quite a while. I took some time with this one. Bud sent me this one. He's a Locked On Ducks insider. And I thought today would be a good moment. Whether Oregon had won the game or not, I was planning to end the show with this because it is uplifting, positive, fun, all that sort of stuff. So, Bud says, name a song that epitomizes the current state of the football program at each of the former Pac-12 RIP teams. For example, USC is Glory Days by Bruce Springsteen. Well, I can't argue with that one and come up with a better suggestion. So I'll just agree with you there. USC gets Glory Days. UCLA is thinking about leaving the Rose Bowl, so they get Moving Out by Billy Joel. These are songs that I like, by the way. Cal is Trying by the Eagles, because they are. I don't know that they're succeeding at a high level, but they're trying to be competitive with Ron Rivera as their GM. Stanford is Summer of 69 by Bryan Adams, because it feels like it's been that long since they were really relevant in the sport. Oregon State is Wake Me Up by Avicii, because I think every Beaver fan wants to be woken up when this nightmare of a football season is over. Oregon, I'll come back to the Ducks. I'll make them last. Washington is Jump Around, because they just lost to Wisconsin. So that was the lowest hanging fruit, and I'm going to take it. Washington State is Duel of the Fates, which I'm counting as a song because I can listen to it, and I do on Spotify. It's from Star Wars, of course, composed by John Williams, originally played in The Phantom Menace, played again in Revenge of the Sith. It's exceptional. It's a beautiful piece of music. But the reason I assign that to the Cougs is they're in this in-between phase for all their sports. WCC, Pac-12. Are they Power Four spenders? Are they not? Are they highly competitive, or are they just going to be okay forever going forward? So they get Duel of the Fates. Utah is Humble by Kendrick Lamar, because I think they just are a very humble program, and they keep getting humbled by BYU, and that's how they've had to act as a fan base in the Big 12, unfortunately, for our former brethren. And then for Colorado, I'm going with The Gambler by Kenny Rogers, because that's kind of what they did by hiring Deion Sanders, is they took a little bit of a gamble. And by the way, it's mostly worked out. This hasn't been a good season, but they're in a better place than they were a couple of years ago. But they also try to build their team through the portal every single year. Kind of a gamble. I feel really good about those song selections, and yet Oregon might have the best one. And this is probably going to hit a little close to home for some of you out there, but for Oregon, I went with I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For by U2. Because they've done everything. I've talked about this before when discussing the football team. It can apply to basketball as well. They've done everything. Basketball has been to a Final Four, won a regular season championship, won conference tournament championship games, won conference championships in football. It's unfortunately perfect. That's unfortunately the perfect representation. Is we're still looking for that one goal. Maybe this year. You never know. So, talk to you guys tomorrow on regular episode of the show. But send me all your thoughts, comments, concerns, statements of outrage, all that stuff. Love that you guys are tuned in to the basketball live shows. I'm going to do these every single game that I can. Can't promise it'll be every game, but I'll do it every chance that I get. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.